Day 132. As a follow-up to yesterday's message, I was thinking about those few days in between when Jesus had died on the cross and then was buried, and before he resurrected, the people that loved him and the people that followed him and his disciples and his family members, what must be going through their minds? Because if you remember back, like the people of that day that were following Jesus seemingly didn't fully understand, or at least in their minds, they were expecting in a leader and someone that was going to save them, someone a little bit different than what Jesus had been carrying out within his mission. So they see this guy that they love, that they are following, die at the hands of his enemies. And I can imagine how dark and lonely and scary and fearful those couple days had to have been for the people around Jesus. And it brings me to the quote that I found today that I love. It says, very simple. It says, "The darkest hour lasts only 60 minutes. And it makes me think about those dark seasons in my life that I've had in the past where you don't feel like you're going to get out of them. You don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. It feels like it's going to be this way forever. That mindset or that depression or that anxiety. And sometimes we just need that reminder that, man, even if you don't see that light at the end of the tunnel, it's coming. It's absolutely coming. Maybe that's why I record things like this, to where I can look back when I'm in a difficult situation or not in the most logical of minds, because we're all going to have these storms eventually in our life, where I can look back and see my logical brain saying, hey, you can't let yourself, get too high or too low. Because the best hours only last 60 minutes and the darkest hours also only last 60 minutes. So again, thought that was kind of a similar theme and a follow-up to yesterday's video, and I just can't harp enough. I get emotional even thinking about it, but the tomb rolling away, or the stone, rolling away, Jesus entering out of the tomb. I think it was over 400 people saw him, and he appeared to his disciples many times before ascending into heaven. And that's the entire thing that the Christian faith hinges on. Is like this man, after being betrayed and beaten and crucified and buried, came back from the dead, defeated death. And the story was written for us to be redeemed after that point. So, again, the darkest hour only lasts 60 minutes, and remember that when you're going through difficult things in your life. I'll close by reading Psalm chapter 37, verses 37 through 40. And it says, "Consider the blameless, observe the upright. A future awaits those who seek peace. But all sinners will be destroyed. There will be no future for the wicked. The salvation of the righteous comes from the Lord. He is their stronghold in times of trouble. The Lord helps them and delivers them. He delivers them from the wicked and saves them, because they take refuge in him." I love every line there. I'll pick out a couple things to talk about. One, there will be no future for the wicked. I always talk about the fast lane and the slow lane. People want to ride their life so fast in the fast lane and get all these experiences and, YOLO kind of mentality. It just tends to lead to more collisions. I was always told at a young age, like, there's more collisions in the fast lane. And not that you can't have a lot of awesome experiences and live a beautiful, full life. You absolutely can and should as a Christian. It's going to be much fuller, actually. But when you're into 19 different things and all these difficult relationships and you're just banging around left and right in the fast lane with your habits. You're just going to have to be careful there. And I think that's what it's alluding to, is there's no future for people like that, not only on this earth, because you're going to run into these earthly issues, but also eternally. No future for the wicked. I like also at the very beginning there in verse 37, consider the blameless, observe the upright. Like, learn from the people before you and pay attention to those that are just leading honest lives. There's a lot to be learned from, not only just from their habits, but you can model so much. You can model your entire life after people that are blameless, that are upright, that are doing the right things for the right reasons because they know whose they are. And then it gets even better in verse 39 there. The salvation of the righteous comes from the Lord. He is their stronghold in times of trouble. And I'll say it time and time again until I'm blue in the face. But all throughout the Bible, I just see these common themes, including Jesus' death and resurrection, where someone is in a very, very challenging spot, but they choose to trust God more than their human emotion. Again, whether it's wars because there's people invading people's lands, whether it's famines where people don't have enough to eat and they're still trusting God, whether it's loss, you look at Job and him losing his entire family and still trusting God. Whatever lesson that was being taught, whatever hard, difficult thing someone was dealing with, all throughout the Bible, floods, etc., natural disasters, all these things, I could go on. They're in the midst of extreme adversity, yet they still choose to trust God more than just wallow in their earthly anxiety and earthly issues. And again, like Jesus talks about, like he goes off to pray to his Father, and hopefully I'm not misquoting this, but he basically says in his time of trouble leading up to right before he knows he's getting ready to get beaten and crucified, and he says, like, God, if you can, please take this cup away from me. But then he goes on to basically say, but Father, like, your will be done over my own. And man, if we can just model that in our life, that perspective is awesome. The Lord helps them, delivers them. He delivers them from the wicked and saves them because they take refuge in him. So hey, wrapping up Easter, it's Easter evening. Maybe we just need to write that in our minds and in our hearts every day from now until the end of the year and from now until forever, is let's take refuge in the Lord in our good times and in our trying times, because amidst our earthly anxieties and fears, because we're going to have them, let's just choose to trust God more. Day 132.